Commission is a group of young people who are LGBT and care experienced who come together to help influence change for care experienced LGBT people.
The Youth Commission is a commission by LGBT Youth Scotland, and it's for people who are care experienced that are aged between 13 and 25.
Being on a youth commission involves talking to young people about their views on a certain topic and what needs to change, and then taking that information to professionals and policymakers in the form of training / a resource. Also, there are many networking events.
A group like the Youth Commission is important because LGBT people's voices aren't often heard, and care experienced people's voices often aren't heard, and when those two identities intersect, there can be a lot of stigma and a lot of silencing and discrimination.
It's bridging the gap between care experienced people and LGBT people, so it's giving people with both experiences the opportunity to have their voice heard.
Specifically with LGBT care experienced people, like not a lot of research had been done or not a lot of systems are in place to specifically safeguard LGBT people in care.
Basically, we're just trying to make a difference to young people's lives in care and improve it.
The LGBT Care Experienced Youth Commission carried out research to gather the views of young people in care.
We put out a survey monkey with all different questions relating to LGBT people's experience in care, what the difference would be with how they were treated based on an LGBT identity. A lot of people had kind of rough situations and stuff that wasn't good for them, so that still shows that there's a need for this research and action to happen.
Once it was over, we gathered all of the information again and compiled it to make statistics.
Out of the people that we asked, around half of them had come out in a care setting. Of those, 31% said that their experience of coming out in care was negative. 78% of people said they felt that staff and carers didn't have the knowledge to support them. There was also an issue with privacy, where only 39% of respondents said they had control over who knew about their LGBT identity. Nearly half of those asked said they had experienced homophobia, biphobia or transphobia. Of those who had, 62% didn't report it, with only 29% saying that they would feel comfortable talking about it. 43% of respondents said that they had experienced stigma, prejudice or discrimination in relation to their LGBT identity in a care setting.
The research is important because LGBT young people in care often don't have much of a voice or feel like they're not safe to be themselves, and in doing this research we've been able to identify and start tackling some of those problems in order to change things for people in the care system now and in the future. The key asks were created after we compiled the results of our research and identified what we thought were the major themes in the answers and what could be done about them.
The LGBT Youth Scotland Care Experienced Youth Commission's key asks are
training staff and carers on LGBT issues, creating a safe environment for young LGBT people, not sharing information without consent from the young person, to build some positive relationships and take homophobic, biphobic and transphobic bullying seriously, and realise that making jokes about LGBT people is never okay, even just as banter. The most important key ask to me would be the making jokes about LGBT people is never okay, even just as banter, as I've had a lot of that and sometimes people don't realise that it's not funny and can take it too far at times.
I think the one that's most important to me is training staff and carers in LGBT issues, because our research showed that 78% of participants didn't feel comfortable or safe exploring their LGBT identity.
It's young people's right to have privacy, and it's something which is, in my experience, just not respected in a care setting. You know, like an LGBT identity is not something that needs to be shared around without consent.
I would hope that the kiosks would lead to more awareness of LGBT identities in care, as well as hoping that it would improve care services for LGBT young people.
I'm hoping that these kiosks will have a positive impact, because the things we've asked for aren't too difficult, and it's just mainly little things that if it's done right and put into practice well, then it should make a massive difference to young LGBT people.
If people know that, that these are issues which are being faced and issues which LGBT young people specifically have said this is important, this is what needs to change, and we'll be more aware that that's what needs to happen.
Mainly staff and carers in the care sector should see the film, as well as anyone who's interested or wants to change what's happening currently.
It's good for young people to see it, because then they know that we're actually trying to make a difference and we've been working hard to do something. But at the same time, it's also very important for carers and parents and professionals to see this and know that some things aren't okay and some things do have to change for the better.
If they see this video and become aware that that there are people who want this change, then they'll know, oh, actually, maybe I should be changing something. It's easier to petition for change and easier for people to understand and listen if there is concrete information about what needs to change.